Joining me now, a man who once sat across from President Trump in that very boardroom on Celebrity Apprentice, Fox News correspondent at large and author of The Geraldo Show, the one and only Geraldo Rivera. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you, Kennedy. It's delightful to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. And isn't this exactly what Omarosa wants?
Well, you know, she wants to sell books. She would, you know, her loyalty is paper thin. She's basically out for herself. She's flamboyant and charismatic and absolutely without scruples. You know, she is making charges about the president that I think are absolute fabrications. I've been with him at least 100 times. I never heard, in public and private, I never heard him utter anything like that, gutter word coming out of his mouth. It never happened. You know, she loved him until he fired her. Now she hates him and will do anything to destroy him. I think that it is unfortunate the story's getting so much attention.
How long have you known this about her personality?
You know, I didn't compete against Omarosa, but the fact of the matter is that for 15 years, Donald Trump has kept her close. You know, he's had her on the show at least 3 times. She continues to lose, but she continues to rate. And the president has always been big on, you know, on ratings. So he kept her around. You know, she is for all her flamboyance, she is a very powerful person. Strength of character. You saw her in that in the clip you played. She's you know, she's very forceful. She's
really good at saying the name of her
adversary.
book over and over and over again. That's how you sell books, and no one ever does that. But you really have to do that. Did you ever warn the president about her behavior and her personality?
No, that wasn't my place. He made a bad choice to keep her so close and bring her, you know, I think there was a confusion there, reality television to real life, and to bring her so close and to let her get so trusted that she could enter the Situation Room with the president's chief of staff with an illegal bug on and get General Kelly on tape. You know, and taping the president and taping God knows who else in that building. She's totally without scruples. She's like a cockroach, so you can't kill her. She's going to keep coming back.
And I feel like
she'll
she
survive
wins
even
here.
radioactive.
You know, even if
she wins because
if we describe her in the most negative way, if we only describe what she's doing, if we don't even use pejorative terms to talk about her and the things we find offensive, she still wins because everyone's talking about her, and it's not just about books. She's really one of those people, and this is, you know this, you've interviewed so many people, including criminals and gangsters and con men and women throughout your illustrious career. You know that in order to be a villain, you have to feast on the negativity as much as the accolades.
Except, Kennedy, when the president calls her a dog, what does he do? He now gives the moral high ground to the person who has stabbed him in the back.
Yeah, I thought that was a really dumb move.
You can't call a black woman a dog. You can't call an African-American person a lowlife that way. I mean, she's a backstabber. She's a bully. You know, she's fill in the blanks. But to go at her level, it's not only punching down, it's in the gutter. And if you're in the gutter snipe always wins. And so the president has no one to blame for the story having these legs but himself.
Yeah, no, I understand. Is she charming?
Well, I don't know her.
I've
you know,
met
we
her a
had
bunch of times.
An Omarosa wannabe in our year, Kenya Moore, who stole the cell phone of Vivica Fox and put phony tweets on it. You know, we had our own backstabber. But
remember
you know,
when
the
someone
fact
did that
that
with
he
your
kept
account?
bringing
That
her
was
back.
rude. Yes.
That was very rude.
I know.
Very rude.
I mean, thank goodness, baby, you look good. So what sticks here from all of this?
You know, no one's talking about the fact that African-American unemployment is at record lows.
Yes.
No one's talking about the fact that more Latinos are working than ever before, that the economy is buzzing, that the president's tenure in office in a year and a half has been a resounding success. Everybody's talking about the pop cultural sideshow, the reality TV, the burlesque, the soap opera, you know, or she says, now he says, now she says, now he says. it's going to stretch this story out. You know, she gets busted, everyone who interviews her. Gayle King was busting her. Savannah Guthrie, made her look so cheap and dishonest on the Today Show. And host after host has been savaging Omarosa, but when the president calls her a dog, gives her a moral imperative
that's
to
what we're
see him eye to eye.
You would think that we're in the middle of the border separation crisis again. You would think it's the day after the Helsinki press conference, the way everyone is responding, and it's because they're both behaving like professional wrestlers, as it were. And the drip, drip, drip of the audio tapes will continue until she makes it to the top of some list. If she's not careful, it's going to be the most wanted for breaking that NDA. Do you think she's going to have to pay millions of dollars in cash and prizes to the White House?
No, arbitration is secret. You never know what happens in arbitration. And if she does indeed show up for arbitration, I think that it will go badly for her. But I don't think it'll ever get to that. I think that at some point, the president's going to recognize the principle of diminishing marginal returns, stop mentioning her, and start focusing on the big issues that he has on his plate right now. There's so much going on with North Korea not denuclearizing, with Turkey and the lira collapsing, and there's so much stuff going on in the world. I want him focused on the big stuff. I worry that if you do 8 tweets on Omarosa, that's at least 8 minutes when you are focused on something other than what the American people voted you into office to do.
And speaking of focus, Geraldo Rivera is so good. He is playing power forward this upcoming season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Geraldo, thank you very much.
Joining me now, a man who has covered everything from the war in Afghanistan to cover-ups of sexual assault in the church and elsewhere, and battles between President Trump and Omarosa at the Apprentice boardroom, where he was a contestant at one point as well. It is surreal to watch all of this play out, Geraldo. Good evening to you. Glad to have you with us tonight. Step back for us a moment and take a look at all of this and put us in some perspective for us tonight.
Well, Martha, welcome to the world of reality television translated on a national, international scale. Omarosa is no accident. She's flamboyant and charismatic, and she rated. President Trump has always had an affinity and an affection for people and stories that rate. He hired her, time and time again on The Apprentice. Even when she lost, she was a winner. She kept coming back. She became such a prominent public figure. And then when he moved into the White House, many thought it was natural that he would take his most vivid contestant, put it that way. Now it seems his judgment in that hiring, this is clearly a case where he should have said, "You're fired," and kept her out of the boardroom and out of the White House, because what has happened, obviously her performance as a key aide to the president was substandard. They feared her as much as they wanted her. She was a volatile person. I think the fact that she was a black woman and one of the few high-ranking black officials in the White House kept her surviving in and around the Oval Office. Now it turns out that she's written this treacherous book. The president has responded, I think, in a very egregious and distasteful way that does him no credit at all. I've been with him 100 times over 40 years. I never heard him utter anything like the N-word. Nothing that filthy ever came out of his mouth. And I think that she's lying about that. I don't think that she's ever heard him say that either. And yet we have this discussion now, and he calls her a dog and a lowlife. And, it's a very, very distressful kind of soap opera, going back again to where I started, reality television.
It is a soap opera, to be sure. And, here's some of how it started and how he, became impressed by her and apparently, thought she was a big star. Here's some of the old days.
And I had to let her know that I had soap experience. In fact, I was featured on the cover of Soap Opera Digest. Yay me. I didn't come here to make friends. I said that from day one. Oh, no, you're not going to tell me to be quiet. You're about to get the other side. You're going to be respectful. So you can say whatever you want, but you're not going to disrespect me. So let's get that straight. Don't ever tell me to be quiet, LaToya. What kind of lady would tell you to be quiet? I'm a grown woman. I run a company. I run half of the West Coast for OK Magazine. You're not going to talk to me like I'm 4 years old. I am not your staff. Get it straight.
It's always
I am not your staff.
It's always a scene.
It's going to always be a
you
scene
guys,
because
okay,
you'll never take me down,
Let's
boo.
start working on the script and get that done.
Next time you fix your mouth to tell me to be quiet, you'll think again. You better think strategically, boo, because you're on the wrong side of Omarosa today.
Woo, so what a shocker that she turned out to be a troublemaker once she got a job in the White House. Here's a book cover that she wrote in 2008. The name of it is The Bitch Switch. That's what it's called. And then on the bottom it says how to turn it on and turn it off. And here's what President Trump said when he wrote in The Art of the Deal about publicity, which is interesting because he's not shying away from this whole thing. He's kind of digging right into it. He says, the one thing I've learned about the press is that they're always hungry for a good story. The more sensational, the better. The funny thing is that even a critical story, which may be hurtful personally, can be very valuable to your business. Geraldo.
My problem with that, Martha, is that you can't sing at the same volume, the same tune when you're talking about North Korea and when you're talking about Omarosa. You've got to, your emotions have to reflect the proportionality. Omarosa now, I think that a lot of this goes back to a real fundamental problem in the Trump White House. There just are not enough black people in that facility, in the government, in high-ranking positions. I've had this conversation with the president himself. Omarosa she filled up so much space, and she was so flamboyant and so, so public and effective and tough, and, she could draw a crowd, and she ran into the stadiums, and they'd be cheering her. The Trump fans would cheer Omarosa because she had the president's back. But I almost used a metaphor that I would have regretted, but that tough lady, the bitch switch, as she calls it, she turned it on him. She's turned it on him now. And the president, by responding at the same kind of tone as she is dishing it out to him, I think diminishes him. And I wish he would just cool it, Martha.
Geraldo, thank you very much. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you.